My stepmom always seemed kind in public, but in private, she subtly sidelined me and preferred her own kids. My father would claim I'm his greatest letdown at age 32, not for criminal reasons. Not because I'm unemployed, not due to any misdeeds, simply because I chose my own path rather than adhering to his blueprint. My dad, James, prefers everything on his terms. Authority, appearances, and loyalty to the family have long been his focuses, provided it serves him. When my parents split, I was 10 years old. On the surface, the separation wasn't messy, but my father progressed quickly. He wed Stephanie, who had Hunter and Olivia from before, in under a year. From then on, things shifted dramatically. I made efforts initially. As a kid, I desired my dad's joy. Stephanie appeared artificially affectionate, excessively enthusiastic outwardly, frequently declaring her intent to unite the family. She embraced me tightly and stated, "I can tell we're destined to be close pals." Yet in seclusion, she plainly favored her children. My dad, once deeply engaged in my world, now had fresh focuses. He transformed into their parent instead of mine. It began with minor issues like skipping my soccer matches but attending all of Hunter's, failing to collect me from school while always punctual for Olivia's ballet performances. It escalated over time. By age 14, I had to watch the kids, assist with chores they escaped, and act as the perfect older sibling while they faced no consequences. If I complained, my dad would exhale as if weary and remark, "They require extra care. You're older, act grown-up." Stephanie was blunter. She labeled me self-centered. My father emptying my mother's college fund was the breaking point. Mom fought fiercely in legal proceedings to recover those funds. Still, the damage lingered. I felt furious. In my senior year, I barely communicated with him. After heading to university, which I paid for independently, I only visited during festivities. Our bond never mended over the years. I still got invites to gatherings, but they felt obligatory. I sensed my dad and Stephanie viewed me as the troublesome offspring who wouldn't pretend to be part of the joyful unit. Hunter and Olivia were the prized ones. It was my father's birthday celebration. Stephanie organized a lavish, invite-everyone-we-know event for him. I hadn't intended to attend. My aunt, among my rare supporters, convinced me. "Just drop in briefly," she suggested. Perhaps circumstances have improved. They hadn't. I felt it upon arrival. That known, unwelcome tension. Distant acquaintances were present. I received courteous acknowledgments rather than warm welcomes. People conversed nearby, but excluded me. I noticed my dad chuckling with former colleagues across the space. Upon spotting me, his grin faltered briefly, as if astonished I'd appeared. I rued my decision when I saw a modest table near the entrance. Name badges? Stephanie explained this aided mingling at prior events. It was her concept. Most badges were standard. Uncle Mark, cousin Rachel, neighbor Tom. Then I found mine. I halted. It wasn't merely my name on the badge, it included something else, something gut-wrenching. I picked it up, staring. From afar, I heard a recognizable chuckle. Stephanie. She observed me, holding a wine goblet with a smirk. My chest warmed as I clutched the badge. Her anticipated reaction didn't occur. I gripped the badge momentarily. My mind needed extra time to process the sight. My name. But beneath in tinier script, the disappointment. It resembled a prank at first, a cruel prank. Maybe a relative fooling around, perhaps an error, but Stephanie chortled. She stood across at the bar when I glanced up. She drank wine casually, our gazes locked. A gradual, satisfied smile spread on her face. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Several people noticed me there, a few eyed me. Even without words, I sensed it. This is typical. Don't create a fuss, it was nearly vocal. After inhaling deeply, I placed the badge back on the table. I adjusted it to blend with the rest. I almost chuckled. Of course, she did this. Classic Stephanie, not overt. Something understated enough to avoid confrontation. Subtle enough to portray me as the issue if I responded. I should have anticipated such a stunt upon entering. A touch on my shoulder made me turn to my aunt, the sole relative who'd ever grasped my situation. Her mouth was pursed, forehead creased. She'd seen the badge. She glanced towards Stephanie. "You all right?" she murmured. I offered a stiff smile. "Yes," I responded, "I'm good," but I wasn't. I felt drained, utterly weary because it was repetitive. This wasn't her harshest deed. It prolonged a tradition of securing my position. I should have departed right then, should have pivoted and exited, yet some inner voice said no, not this instance. Instead, I inhaled deeply, squared my posture, and did something sure to stun them. I smiled. A genuine one, as if unaffected. Grabbing a flute of champagne from a server passing by, I lightly tapped it with my fingernail and surveyed the area. If she sought a spectacle, I'd provide one. I lifted my beverage slightly, sensing the mood shift as some turned toward me. I hadn't responded yet. The soft ting of my nail on the glass drew notice. Stephanie paused briefly before sipping more wine leisurely, her gaze sharpening as if puzzling my intent. I pondered delivering a speech, but I shook my head subtly and pivoted to resume the festivities. I wouldn't grant her a response. Not immediately. The event proceeded as anticipated, overcrowded, overly refined, luxury food service. Meticulously adorned. Stephanie always overdid it, as her existence was a show. It wasn't solely about honoring Dad's milestone, it was for display, about broadcasting her perfect existence. How she and my father cherished one another. How accomplished their children were. Their kids, excluding me. Hunter and Olivia held court in the room's center, encircled by kin nodding as Olivia described her nuptials. And naturally, Dad's covering all costs, she beamed while twirling the large gem on her digit. We aimed for sophistication, you understand? A truly classy affair, not one of those garish online fiascos. I snickered inwardly. Olivia was perpetually thus, groomed, scripted, self-focused enough to ensure all revolved around her without overtness. Hunter lounged at the bar, agreeing as my dad's past associates praised his recent promotion, which I knew he'd been handed. Hunter never truly labored. Opportunities were bestowed upon him. My father discreetly fixed every blunder. I contemplated approaching to insert myself and observe their discomfort. Before I could, my father addressed me. "Ah," he uttered. Turning, I saw him nearing with a beverage expression impartial. "I didn't expect you'd show." I smiled, though insincerely, couldn't skip it. He nodded, scanned the vicinity, then fixed on me. "You've stayed occupied from what I've heard." There it was. The courteous evasion of inquiring about my existence, as always, I affirmed. "Yes, career's progressing well. Purchased a home last year." He arched an eyebrow. "A home?" "Yes." He took a swig, inquiring no further. One trait of my dad. Whenever I achieved without his input, he resented it. Each independent success chipped at his story of me. I was adrift, egotistical, childish. He detested that. He favored the version he could lament, the one he could describe with pity when queried about me. He clearly searched for words. A subtle jab. Before he could, Stephanie's tone sliced through like a blade. "Well," she commented, positioning behind him, "at least she's finally acted sensibly." My chest ignited anew. I faced her, noting her radiant expression, as if elated to encounter me. I knew that look, seen it countless times. Stephanie would slight you directly, and if upset, you'd be at fault. It was humor. "You're too touchy. I should have departed, should have released it, but I didn't." Because this evening, this entirety felt wrong, maybe the badge, perhaps my dad's minimal interaction before dismissal, maybe the chamber filled with non-kin. Regardless. I was finished. I cocked my head towards Stephanie. "You know, I was planning to overlook it," I said softly. "But I must inquire, who thought up the badge?" A flicker crossed her features. "Oh, honestly," she tittered. "You're forever so sensitive." It was amusing. I nodded. "Sure, comical." She shrugged while sipping wine. "You know, if you devoted less energy to resentment, perhaps you'd be." I interrupted with a gesture. "Actually," I replied steadily, "you're correct." Her eyes squinted. "Regarding what?" About crafting a jest, I pivoted, elevating my glass. "Because reflecting now, I have one too." She blinked, caught off guard. My father fidgeted uneasily nearby. My grin was deliberate and relaxed. "I'd like to propose a toast." Abruptly, the space hushed. Not instantly, not completely. As curious guests eyed me, chatter diminished. Since folks love speeches, particularly impromptu ones, I felt my father stiffen beside me. Stephanie chuckled and adjusted her stance to dismiss me. "Oh, no need, truly." I smiled and gestured. "No, really, I insist." With increasing observers whispering intrigued, the atmosphere transformed. Some guests lifted drinks expecting a jovial salute, unaware of what followed. Stephanie's grin strained, yet she maintained composure, assuming I remained the familiar figure. The one who absorbed every slight, released all, and never retaliated. My dad sensed more. He clutched his glass tighter and regarded me properly for the first time that night, not evasively, peripherally, or condescendingly. After allowing the quiet to intensify, heightening expectation, I raised my glass. To my father, I stated nearly casually, and to Stephanie, naturally. Because without them, I doubt I'd have grasped one of life's key insights. I savored the champagne gradually. Stephanie emitted a soft chuckle. "Oh dear, here it comes." Some chortled. They thought it playful, believed I'd self-deprecate or reconcile as usual. I smiled. "No, sincerely, I mean it." Because we frequently gain the most from those who test us, right? I faced my dad. Dad, you always said family should uplift one another, that we ought to back each other, rejoice in mutual achievements. My father's Adam's apple moved as he gulped, tightening his hold on the drink. He disliked the trajectory. I continued, and I once trusted that, truly. But eventually I comprehended something. The room grew almost soundless. Stephanie's digits gripped her wine stem so firmly I feared it might snap. I set my glass down gently on the adjacent surface. I understood that for certain individuals, backing only applies when you conform to their desired image. That provided you enact the part they've scripted, be it the favored or the outcast, they'll maintain you precisely as required. And if you deviate from that part, I shook my head, sighing deeply. Well, then they reveal their true sentiments. Uncomfortable shuffles echoed from the audience, glancing among themselves. Olivia watched my father for cues on reaction. Hunter smirked as if this amused him. Stephanie's smile persisted, but her knuckles blanched. I used to believe that by demonstrating worth, by striving, by succeeding, by following norms, you'd perceive me anew, I said, voice gentling yet unwavering. But now I see. It was never my fault. Never about my actions or inactions. Stephanie interjected, probably to derail me, but I halted her, turning back to my dad. Because success wasn't my intended role, correct? His face shifted fleetingly. I sighed, loosening my shoulders after letting that linger. But I succeeded. I created my own path. I forged an existence unrelated to this family, and honestly, it's been the most serene, rewarding choice ever. I detected confusion and curiosity in the crowd, unclear on my message. I was weary of permitting their long-standing portrayal by Stephanie and my father. Stephanie laughed forcibly to reclaim dominance. Oh, please, this is absurd. It was merely a badge. I regarded her. You're correct, I responded smoothly. It is, but it's also a trend, a lifelong series of such instances. Minor slights, minor quips, minor reminders that regardless of efforts, in your view, I'll forever be the failure. Dad cleared his voice and advanced. That's sufficient. I met his eyes squarely. Oh, I concur, it is sufficient. Before comprehension dawned, I reclaimed my glass, raised it marginally to let my forthcoming words permeate the space. To the final occasion you'll encounter me. A profound silence, my father rigidified. Stephanie's mouth dropped before shutting. Someone rearward murmured, hold on, what? I placed my drink down, spun, and strode to the exit wordlessly. Felt their stares, felt alarm emerging. Because this differed, one final glance prior to departing. For once it didn't seem like fleeing conflict. Advancing toward something, toward liberation, toward serenity. I was constructing a life distant from my family's complications. Stepping outdoors, I drew in the cool evening breeze. It concluded. I should have severed connections ages ago. No further facade. No more striving to satisfy those indifferent unless I matched their mold. With every mile driven homeward in quiet that night, my burden lightened. Yet, as I lounged in my tranquil lounge later, I pondered if I'd exceeded bounds. Was my choice correct? Was I excessively severe? The ensuing days brimmed with messages and rings. I stayed mute, evaded online platforms aware of fallout. I abandoned my dad's milestone bash. I humiliated him and Stephanie publicly. His spouse, my stepmother, I'd long perceived the lady as edging me out for her flawless realm. The kin chat overflowed with notes, but I remained silent, uncertain about facing it. At last, my aunt, the lone one who comprehended, messaged to verify my well-being. Unsure of response, I was fine. Felt improved than in ages, yet doubtful. Informed her I required space. She didn't insist. Dad rang the following morn. Where are you? He queried in his customary timbre, which typically evoked my inadequacy. At home, I replied, not returning. His pause was all I needed. You can't depart thus, he said shortly after. This kin we must unite. No pause from me. Not if uniting demands feigning an identity I'm not no longer. It marked our ultimate dialogue. I skipped every kin occasion, matrimonies, anniversaries, and all they arranged. For weeks, remaining relatives either aligned with my dad and Stephanie's depiction of me or acted as if unaltered. Via hearsay, I learned my dad felt wounded, Stephanie furious. My siblings condemned my outburst. None fazed me. I knew my path suited me. I persisted in existing, still resilient. Though severing was tough, I savored tranquility absent for years. No kin has contacted since. Thus I query, am I at fault for exiting that way? For the salute and complete detachment did I exceed? Am I validated in defending myself at last? I'll never satisfy my dad. I won't be his offspring. Yet perhaps I've accepted I needn't be. Reddit, advise me. Was my conduct improper or was this long due?